No matter how hard we try, sometimes the hero cannot save everyone. Not even the great Commander Shepard is immune to loss. In this video, we're going to discuss 15 NPCs that we cannot save under any circumstances in the Mass Effect Trilogy. Number 1. Richard L. Jenkins. Our beloved first squad mate, a good old boy from the peaceful colony of Eden Prime, is the first ever character to die in the Mass Effect Trilogy. And no matter how much we want to, there is absolutely no way to save him from this fate, despite my April Fool's video from last year. As many of you already know, the red shirt Jenkins is a reference to a popular World of Warcraft meme from the early 2000s, where an AFK character named Leroy Jenkins rushes into battle ahead of the rest of his raiding party.
Alright, chums up. Ready, guys? Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
And just like Leroy, Richard Jenkins is eager to see some action on Eden Prime, eventually charging headfirst into the fire of a couple of Geth recon drones.
Rip right through his shields. Never had a chance.
Number 2. Niket. During Miranda's loyalty mission, we work with our genetically modified baddie's childhood friend Niket to help move her sister Oriana to a safe place away from her father. Unfortunately for Miranda, Niket ends up betraying her to help Henry Lawson recover his youngest daughter. The quest concludes with a tense confrontation with Niket and a gang of Eclipse mercs on Ilium.
Miri.
This should be fun.
No matter what you do during this conversation, Niket always winds up dead. He'll either get shot by Miranda, or if you convince Miranda to spare his life, he'll get shot by the Eclipse gangster instead.
I never want to see you again, Niket. Done. Now, if you don't mind, I have a shipment to deliver. You'll die for that, bitch!
The Paragon option is good because it involves some personal growth for Miranda, but it doesn't end up doing a lot of good for old Niket. I guess the lesson here is never betray Miranda. Number 3. Anderson. Our surrogate father, David Anderson, is one of my favorite characters in Mass Effect. He helps Shepard advance in the Alliance, become a Spectre, and gives us a badass ship and a swanky apartment. He was one of the first and only ones to believe Shepard about the Reapers too. So it's a damn shame we can't save his life in Mass Effect 3. No matter what you do, Anderson will wind up dead during the final mission on Earth. He'll either take a bullet in the dome by the Illusive Man, or succumb to fatal wounds sustained while dashing to the Citadel beam. But if there was ever a beautiful death scene in Mass Effect, it's those final moments with Anderson on the Citadel. I always get a little choked up when Anderson says, "You did good, son."
You did good, son. You did good. I'm proud of you.
Rest in peace, King. You were the real homie. Number 4. Thane. Speaking of real homies, Thane is a true ride or die. Or in Thane's case, it's die or die because there's nothing we can do to save him in Mass Effect 3. Assuming Thane survived the final mission in Mass Effect 2, he'll return on the Citadel in the 3rd game. And if we speak to him, he'll end up pulling a Deus Ex Machina for the Salarian Counselor when Cerberus attacks the Citadel. Unfortunately, he gets a sword in the gut from Kai Lang and ends up succumbing to his wounds in Huerta Memorial Hospital shortly thereafter. Now, I guess if we're getting super technical, this specific fate can be avoided by simply not talking to Thane in Mass Effect 3. In this case, either Kirrahe will save the Salarian Counselor, or Kai Lang will just kill him instead. But considering Thane has a terminal illness and is in the hospital to essentially live out his final days, and further considering the Citadel ends up getting taken over by the Reapers at the end of the game, it's likely Thane doesn't make it to the end of the trilogy. Entropy wins. Entropy always wins. Number 5. Udina. Most players probably wouldn't want to save the pesky human counselor, so it's a good thing that Udina always winds up dead at the end of Priority the Citadel 2. During the final confrontation, Commander Shepard will have the opportunity to take a shot at Udina, but if you don't, then the Virmire survivor will put a bullet in them instead. But what if the Virmire survivor got shot too, you might be wondering? Well, in that case, Commander Shepard shoots Udina with no player input whatsoever. So yeah, Big Daddy Udina always gets bodied at the end of this confrontation. Sorry, pal. Number 6. Jacob Taylor. During the final mission of Mass Effect 2, Jacob Taylor volunteers to go into the vents to help your crew infiltrate the base. And since he was asking for it, we must oblige and send him into the vents, in which case he always takes a collector projectile right to the face.
Jacob!
I'm just kidding. Of course you can save Jacob in Mass Effect 2, but the real question is, do you really want to? The actual number 6 is Okeer, the Krogan warlord we are supposed to recruit in Mass Effect 2. During his recruitment mission, the unhinged Blue Suns leader Jador floods his research chamber with toxic gas. Okeer stays behind to secure his beloved prototype Grunt while Shepard deals with Jador. There is no way to save Okeer during this mission, but I don't think any players will really miss the guy since we only knew him for a couple of minutes, and because we get Grunt, one of the best squad mates in the trilogy. Number 7, Saren. The big bad of Mass Effect 1 is one of the more complicated villains in all of video games. Rather than following the classic trope of evil guy in search of power, Saren seeks to save organic life by making them subservient to the Reapers. Add to that the potential he's been indoctrinated by his patron Sovereign, and Saren might not be all that bad of a guy. Through our conversations with him, we can make Saren see the error of his ways, but sadly the indoctrination runs a bit too deep for us to save his life. In the best case scenario, we watch him delete himself on the Citadel as one last effort to betray the Reapers and undo the damage he's done.
It's not over yet. You can still redeem yourself.
Goodbye, Shepard. Thank you.
Number 8, the Illusive Man. If Saren makes the list, I'd be remiss if I excluded the leader of Cerberus. Jack Harper, aka the Illusive Man, starts off as a shady ally in Mass Effect 2 before betraying Shepard in Mass Effect 3. The game concludes with a confrontation against the heavily indoctrinated Harper on the Citadel, an homage to our final showdown with Saren in the first game. Whatever you do, the Illusive Man will die in this conversation, either by his own hand if you pass a series of speech checks, or at the hands of Shepard. If you fail to hit a Renegade interrupt, he will shoot Anderson, so you definitely don't want to let that happen. If you do, there's a second Renegade interrupt, which if you miss that, will cause the Illusive Man to shoot Shepard as well, triggering a critical mission failure.
I am the pinnacle of our species. And I'm afraid it is you who have failed.
But the only way to progress the ending is over the Illusive Man's lifeless body. Number 9, Admiral Kahoku. We can meet the Alliance Admiral on the Citadel early in the game. He tasks us with a quest to find a missing unit of soldiers, which leads us on a winding journey into shady Cerberus business. Later in the game, we'll receive a distressed message from Kahoku alerting us that Cerberus was responsible for the deaths of his men, and now they're coming for him. Even if we rush to save our homie Kahoku, we always arrive too late to discover he's been injected with lethal chemicals. Coincidentally, the same music plays when we sleep with Sha'ira the Consort. Number 10, Fai Dan. The real homie everyone asks us to speak to when we arrive on Pharos, Fai Dan is the leader of the Zoo's Hope colony. So it's a damn shame we cannot save his life during the Geth attack / Thorian meltdown. When the colonists begin attacking Shepard by mental command of the Thorian, Fai Dan takes himself out to allow the commander to finish his mission.
It wants me to stop you, but I won't. I won't!
Interestingly enough, there's also another guy on the landing pad at the beginning of the Pharos mission that we cannot save. I can't remember his name, but after exhausting your initial dialogue with him, he always gets killed by a Geth rocket trooper.
Please, up the stairs past the freighter.
Number 11, Navigator Pressley. Pressley is one of the first characters we can speak to in Mass Effect 1, and his dialogue serves as an introduction to the Turians and the First Contact War. Pressley is a little bit salty about aliens to say the least, but his views will be shifted by Commander Shepard over the course of the game, as we come to find later. Side note, my favorite moment from Pressley is when he's molding out about the landing zone before the start of the Ilos mission.
Find another landing zone!
There is no other landing zone!
At the beginning of Mass Effect 2, when the Collectors attack the Normandy in an attempt to take out Shepard, Pressley gets ganked in a cutscene.
Pressley!
If you complete the Normandy Crash Site DLC, Shepard can find journal entries about Pressley's time on the crew and how his opinions on aliens were changed by the Commander, owing to the recruitment of Garrus, Rex, Tali, and Liara to help take down Saren. Number 12. Legion. Along with Thane, Legion is the only squad mate who cannot be saved in Mass Effect 3. Regardless of whether you side with the Geth, throw your weight behind the Quarians, or broker peace, Legion always dies during the end of Priority Rannoch. If you side with the Quarians, Legion will be killed by either Tali or Admiral Ron. And if you side with the Geth or broker peace, Legion sacrifices himself to upgrade all the Geth with that fancy Reaper code. If Legion was sold to Cerberus in Mass Effect 2, Shepard will end up killing him on Kronos Station near the end of the game. Yes, this unit has a soul, but it also always gets scrapped for parts. Sorry, my AI friend. Number 13, Nyreen. During the Omega DLC, Commander Shepard teams up with Aria T'Loak to help retake her home station from Cerberus. Along the way, you'll link up with a Turian gangster who also happens to be Aria's ex-girlfriend. Nyreen is the paragon to Aria's renegade, seeking to save civilians from being caught in the crossfire of Aria's war. And it's this nobility which leads to Nyreen's demise. Regardless of your choices, Nyreen always sacrifices herself to save a group of civilians just outside the afterlife near the end of the mission. This is the last we ever see of Nyreen, although her cousin Tyrion Kandros is in Mass Effect Andromeda, and he will talk about his criminal family member if you ask about it. Number 14, Victus. Speaking of dead Turians, Lieutenant Tarquin Victus is another character we cannot save in Mass Effect 3. Through nepotism, Victus was given command of an important mission by his father, a high-ranking Turian general who rose to become Primarch. But the mission goes sideways when his crew gets shot down on Tuchanka. Shepard helps Victus find the courage to rally his men and finish their mission, which is deactivating a big-ass nuclear weapon buried under the planet's surface. Victus ultimately gets the job done by sacrificing himself to disarm the nuke in one of the most badass moments in the game.
Lieutenant! Victory. At any time.
Number 15, Wilson. Just like Jenkins, Wilson is a squad mate who doesn't survive the tutorial mission. He basically serves as a tutorial on how to use Metagel and the Overload ability, only to get ganked by Miranda moments later for allegedly betraying the group.
Come on, through here. We're almost at the... Miranda, but you were...
Dead?
Another bald villain, eh? I see Miranda knows how to spot a betrayer. If only she was in Dragon Age Inquisition. The whole Trespasser DLC could have been avoided. So there you have it. 15 NPCs you cannot save in the Mass Effect Trilogy. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more Mass Effect and RPG videos. Big shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.